Hey there, Magic players. Barry White here from MagicUntapped.com and Magic Untapped right here on YouTube. You probably recognize this guy, Gavin Verhey with Wizards of the Coast, one of the probably most important designers, I think, on staff right now. Anyhow, Gavin, let's talk a little bit about the whole R&D side of things. How does a card make it from a thought in the head to being printed on paper? Tell me about that journey.
Whew, it is a long journey, Barry. I mean, it takes years of time for it to happen. You know, an average Magic set takes 2.5, 3 years, and then with Universes Beyond, it can take even longer sometimes. So basically, you know, usually what happens is we either start top down or bottom up. So let's say we're on a world. I'll pick a random one. I'll say Theros. Okay. When you're on Theros, top down idea is you start with a concept, an idea, a thing you want to represent. Let's say it's a Hydra, right? Or for example, it's like, okay, we're gonna start with a Hydra. What does a Hydra do? And you kind of make the card from there. Bottom up is when you have to fill a certain role. So it's like, okay, well, we need a red burn spell at common. Okay, well, let's figure out the red burn spell, put the set mechanic on it. We'll figure out the creative later. And both of those are crucial in making the card. But it's a lot of that and a lot of iteration over play tests over and over and over again to eventually bring a set after many years to the public.
So I'm assuming we have the initial concept, then what, first draft, second draft, go back to the drawing table. There's a lot of that, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, for any given set, there are thousands of cards made, right, that you will never see, that just get lost to time because we spend so much time on it. And kind of this path is, you start at a phase called exploratory design, where we're just kind of exploring everything, seeing what works, trying to, every mechanic we can think of. We get into vision design, where we take all that information, trying to actually start building out the set. And then finally you do set design, where you take what Vision did to finish off the set. And this whole process takes, like I said, a very long time. And an individual slot or card might change tons and tons of times through that whole process to the point where it's unrecognizable. And that's why, you know, like I said, thousands of cards get made for any given set. It takes a really long time.
Now, has there ever been a time, and I'm assuming that this has happened, where everything's great, you're going fine, good near the end, and you're like, oh wait, this doesn't work. What happens then?
I don't know about like right at the very end, but definitely, you know, mechanics will change coming down the pipe as you do more play tests and you just learn you have to fix them. And ultimately at that point, just deciding, okay, are we gonna pull this thing out? If the answer is yes, what are we gonna replace it with, right? And usually what we do as designers is if we have to change something really later on down the path, we pick something pretty safe because you don't wanna make a mistake that's gonna blow something up on accident, right?
Oh, that makes sense.
So like if you pull out a mechanic late that's kind of risky, you'll put in a mechanic that you know is gonna work. Like, okay, well we had to take out this very risky mechanic. Let's do cycling or flashback or something we've done a bunch of times that we know is really safe.
Go back to some of the old standbys and like, you know what, this actually does work. Let's pull that one in.
Right. We know it's safe. We know people like it. Let's go with this. That does not happen very often, though. Usually by the time we get pretty far down the path, we know what we're doing and stuff isn't going to change from there. But one example is in Streets of New Capenna, for example, we had the Hideaway cycle of enchantments at Rare. There are 5 of them. That was originally a much different, much more ambitious mechanic.
Really?
And we got kind of close to the end, and it just wasn't working out from both the gameplay and even rules perspective. So we decided just to be like, okay, let's pull this out and put something that would be fun to put in instead. And Hideaway, although there's only 5 cards with them, is pretty tried and true and a pretty fun, flavorful thing for Capenna. The word Hideaway, of course, on a world full of crime bosses makes a lot of sense.
It does, almost like a safe house.
Exactly, yeah. Right? So that's where those kind of things came from. So it has happened a few times, although not that often.
Now you keep saying it takes years and years and years. We do have a number of sets coming out here in the near future. Where in the process are some of these known sets, just so people have an idea of really kind of like the point A to point Z, the overall stretch of this years and years.
Right, so I mean, we recently did a panel showing off the next several years of Magic, right? And one of the announced sets was volleyball. Mm-hmm. I've done some work on both Ultimate and volleyball recently, but even beyond that, stuff's being worked on. So yeah.
Literally years and years and years.
Years in advance.
In different stages. And is it tricky to have to juggle multiple sets, multiple developments that have such a long development time?
Well, it feels like being a time traveler, because in any given day, I'll be working on something for 2 years from now, next year, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, right? And you have to kind of keep in mind where everything is and what's next to it, right? Because what one set needs, or what stage one set is in, and the set that's next to, from like a design standpoint, is very different from a set that's a few years down the line.
And finally, because I know you read the comments section. It's kind of hard not to. I mean, we all do it, even though we know better. For the people who just don't really understand and they just can't quite grasp this whole concept of the amount of time it takes and all the work that goes into it, what's one thing you hope people will appreciate about the process?
Well, it's a long process, but the glory of it being so long is we get to do a lot of time and iteration to make the sets as good as we could possibly make them, right? To get the art right, to get the flavor right, to get the card design right, to build out the standard environment, the limited environment. That all just takes a lot of time. And to make sets as great as we want them to be, we need that time to make it happen. A good rule of thumb is the next year of Magic is done, right? So the next year of Magic is finished 12 months from now, and then beyond that. It's not always exactly correct, but roughly.
And there's marketing that needs to be done and whatnot.
Plenty of stuff.
But in the R&D side, you're pretty much about 12 months out.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, well, Gavin, thank you for the time. This is actually rather enlightening, very interesting. Hope you guys there in YouTube world enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Barry White from MagicUntapped.com.
Thank you.